Okay, so we're going to begin with the Purim story, and let's start with a few ideas. Remember, everything's written on the board over the semester. I'm telling you now as a heads up, you will be expected to know Hebrew and English. So we're going to start by going through the Megillah story, which is in your source books, but you're welcome to bring your own as well. You can ask questions as we go. Let's first of all start with an idea when it comes to the Megillah. Okay? And there's a halacha. There's a halacha, it's a Jewish law, that when it comes to reading the Purim story, and when it comes to reading the Megillah, I'm going to start with the Megillah, then the ideas and the halachas of Purim. You must, according to halacha, you must read the Megillah in order, in the correct order. That is the halacha. You're not allowed to read it backwards. You can't read chapter 9 and then 3 and then 5. Why a person would do that? It's an interesting question, but I don't know. Let's say they decided to. Why is that an important thing? Why is it so crucial that the rabbis have gone out of the way to saying you've got to read the Megillah in the right order? So the answer is going to be that the entire story, from the beginning till the end, is going to follow a pattern. And that pattern is really, really important. There's a beginning to the story, there's a middle to the story, and there's an end to the story as well. There's a hatchala, and there's a sof. And as we say in Hebrew, sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila, which means, basically, the end of all action is the beginning of all thought. It starts with the end in mind. So we're going to see the first couple of chapters are not really talking about miracles. They're not even mentioning the Jewish people that much. They're just some random story about some person called Achasheverosh, who we're going to meet in a few seconds, and his party, and his wife Vashti, and how he's going to kill her in a particularly gruesome way. And it's like, why do I care about this? Why am I being told about a story that happened thousands of years ago, thousands of miles ago, and yet this story has become one of the most important stories in Jewish history and Jewish literature. Now, it's a fascinating story because there's power, there's a lot of money, there's kings, queens, murder, intrigue. Like the royal family in England, pretty much, you know, it's no real difference, you know. A lot of similarities there, actually, we're going to see as well. Right. So there's a lot going on, and you're like, really like, well, what's this got to do with us? And very quickly we're going to see that the entire story has so much to do with us as a people that, according to the Rambam, and we'll look at this Rambam inside later on in the semester, when Mashiach comes, all the books of Tanakh are going to become obsolete. We're not going to need them anymore. Because the redemption would have happened. Says the Rambam, Halacha, and the Mishnah Torah mentions this. All gone. No more Isaiah, no more Jeremiah. All gone, we don't need them. Because they're all about the final redemption. But Megillat Esther will always be there. That means there's something, dare I say it, messianic, and there's some revelation in this book which is going to apply and describe the coming of the Messiah and the eventual redemption, meaning the way it happens. This is all introduction. We're going to double click on all these ideas as the semester goes. Let's just get a few dates down. I don't do many dates in my classes because people don't remember them. You know what I'm saying? It's not like a art history class that no one even listens in. But there are a few dates just to put into context because the story begins very excitingly at a scene, at an event, at a party. So we have to see where that is. So let's start with 1 year, which is 445 BCE. And that is when Nebuchadnezzar takes on the throne. Nebuchadnezzar. He was the leader of the Babylonian Empire. And he was the one who destroyed the first temple. And he exiled the Jewish people to Babylonia, which is modern day Iraq. And that's where he's removed the Jews, Nebuchadnezzar, and he assumes the throne. He takes power in Iraq at that time. Now, as dictators go, and he was a pretty big dictator, they want to spread their power as far and as wide as possible. But the center of his power, remember, there's a no phone rule in this class. I know it's tough for you. It's tougher for me. Okay? He wants to create a base in Babylon, in Bavel. That's where the base of his power is. Now that's important because Achasheverosh is going to relocate the power. Nebuchadnezzar takes power. He's the leader of Babylonian Empire. Okay? And he destroys the temple in 425 BCE. He destroys the temple in Jerusalem, the first temple of Solomon. Solomon's temple. And he exiles the Jewish people. Okay. Now there was a prophecy. This is very important. And there's a lot written on this. There was a prophecy that none of you have heard of, that the Jewish people were going to be exiled. And even King Solomon, when he built the temple, was aware that the Jewish people were going to be exiled. How long was that exile going to be? 70 years. Very good. There was a 70-year exile. Now, as you know, the Jewish people have been through 4 exiles. In my Mashiach class, we talk about a 5th. But let's just go with the basic 4 exiles. The first exile is the Babylonian exile, Bavel. That's Nebuchadnezzar from the Jewish people, kicking them out. The second exile, which this one flows into, which is going to be really the story of Purim. Okay, these are the 4 exiles, the Dalet Galiot. Right, we have 4 exiles the Jewish people have been in. Bavel, Babylonia, that's Nebuchadnezzar. Number 2 is Paras Umadai. The Persian Paras Umadai. And Paras is modern day Great Neck. And what happened what? We're getting a lot of that this semester. And this we'll see is where the action happens, which leads into Madai. Eventually, at the end of our story, we're going to which takes a long time actually, meaning the actual Purim story, it looks like it happens over a few weeks. It took years and years for it to unfold. It's actually a slow movement, which is important. And then we go, the second temple is rebuilt, right, by Dariavesh, Esther and Achasheverosh's son. He's going to build the second temple, which is going to lead to the third exile 200 years later of Yavan. That's the Greek exile. This is the Persian. This is the Persian exile. This is the Babylonian. Okay. This is the Greek. That's the whole Hanukkah stories in there. And finally, 200 years after this, we go into the end of the second temple with the destruction by Rome. That is Edom, also known as Romi, the Roman exile. Okay? And that's the destruction of the second temple. So we have 4 exiles that take place over 1,000 years or so. Babylonian exile is where we're at the end of, and here we are in Paras. Now the gap between the destruction of the first temple and the rebuilding of the second temple is a 70-year period. We knew we'd be out for 70 years. What's really weird about this, and quite interesting, is that nobody was sure when the 70 years began or ended. We just know it was going to last for 70 years. But when do we start the clock? When do we start the clock? This is Romi, Edom, Roman, right? The Roman exile. Yeah.
What's Madai?
Madai, Median. That's another nation that flows into after Persia.
So we just need to know Persia?
Yeah, that's the most important one. Yeah.
Also, where do we go from the Babylonian exile to the Persian exile?
So,
Is it just
I think we're going to see, that's the story. Basically, it's going to be a power base, and the world is going to be controlled from Nebuchadnezzar, who's going to die, and taken over by someone called Belshazzar, and then we're going to move into Achasheverosh.
But, so basically, it's not like after the Babylonian exile, we went back to Israel, and then we went...
No, there's a 70-year gap. At the end of the 70 years, we go back. After
So
70 years, we go back. By the way, when we go back, most Jews do not go back for the rebuilding of the Second Temple.
Why is it considered two different exiles?
Because we are being very good. Because we are being controlled by forces, and Israel is controlled by outside forces, and the majority of the Jewish people are out. So when other people control Israel, we are exiled. It's a physical, but also a spiritual thing. We'll come to that. Yeah.
Sorry for asking so many questions.
Don't apologize for asking questions.
Thank you. So 70 years, is that for one specific exile or for
Yes.
multiple?
No. For one. Between this destruction, okay, and the return of the Jewish people by Dariavesh into the second one. Okay? Are we good so far? I'm downloading a lot of information, but it's really important because the opening scene will not make any sense without this. Because we're going to have a party. I don't mean in this class, because my class is always a big party. But I mean, it's going to open up with a big party, a big msiba, and it's only going to make sense if you understand what they're celebrating. So, a number of people, Jews and non-Jews, had their own version of when this 70 years started and when it ended. When the clock began and ended at the 70 years. The Jewish people had their version. Achasheverosh had his version. Belshazzar had his version. Esther had hers. So we all had different versions of when that started and ended. It's okay. When that started and ended. And it wasn't so clear when to begin and when to end it. Okay? Are we good so far? So now, right before Achasheverosh takes power, there's someone called Belshazzar, who also has a certain vision of when this 70 years begins and ends. And at the end, he celebrates, dresses up, Belshazzar. Tanakh tells us, we're not going to focus too much on him. He dresses up and has a party to celebrate what he thinks is the end of the 70 years. Why would he celebrate that? Because in his vision, his mind, it's done. The 70 years are over, and the Jewish people are still in exile. I'm still in control. That night, there's writing on the wall, the famous expression, the writings on the wall that appears, that tells him in Aramaic that his kingdom is going to be divided, and he's going to be killed, and he dies that night at the hands of one of his own people. Belshazzar dies, and very quickly, someone else takes power. A individual who is known in the Megillah as Achasheverosh. He takes over power, and his name is Achasheverosh.
You're celebrating the end of exile?
Yeah. Celebrating the end of the exile as if to say, the 70 is finished, obviously your prophet was wrong, you're not going back to Israel. You're stuck here with us. That's what he was celebrating. And that's important, because it's going to happen right again.
He died that night?
He died that night. So Belshazzar's gone. Who takes over from a dictator? Another dictator. And we found one. And his name is Achasheverosh. And Achasheverosh was an interesting character. He worked his way up the political and the military. He started as a stable boy, working for Nebuchadnezzar, and ends up working his way up. When you say working way up, I mean killing your way up. That's the way they did it. and he was very conniving. He was a genius. He was a tremendous anti-Semite. If you read the Megillah, which we're going to do, he doesn't seem like an anti-Semite. Looks like he's actually very nice to the Jews. Anyone know why? Why would that be? Why would the Megillah depict him as actually a very benevolent? If everyone sees like Achasheverosh in the Megillah, he's like some like joking king with a crown on the side of his head. Ooh, I'm Achasheverosh. And yet, in real life, if you look at the commentaries, he was worse than Haman. Yeah.
They wrote it in the time when Achasheverosh was alive.
He was alive, and he was alive, and he was alive afterwards. And he saw this. Right, when he received his copy of the Megillah, art scroll, he's going to look through and say, hey, that's how you depict me? So they had to be but we're going to see encoded. Mordechai and Esther, when they put the Megillah together, they encoded in this story a lot of truth about Achasheverosh, which he would not have noticed. Okay? So he takes power, and this is really important, because when he takes power, he's going to do a few things. The most important thing he's going to do is change the power base from Babylon to Paras. And he's going to do that in a couple of ways. He's going to make the capital of his power to a place called Shushan. Shushan, which is modern day, and there's a video right now, I think on YouTube, you can see the burial place of Mordechai and Esther, just outside Hamadan. It's like near Ham, in Hamadan's outside, but it's a place called Shushan. Shushan. Okay, now we're going to see there's another place which is going to be called Shushan Habira, which is actually going to be a separate entity within Shushan, we're going to see, that was actually surrounded by a moat and is going to be another location. So we're going to see this place called Shushan, and there's going to be Shushan Habira, and all this taking place in Persia. So he's Persian. So the first thing he wants to do is forget Babylon. We're going to bring all the stuff that he's going to steal a lot of stuff. This is important as well. Because dictators, when they win over other dictators, you may have noticed, even to this day, they take their stuff with them, right? They always steal things. So he's going to steal a bunch of stuff, which Belshazzar stole, from Nebuchadnezzar, which he stole when he ransacked Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim, and the temple. So all these people are going to hand off their stuff to each other. Okay? There's a great painting by Rembrandt, you can look it up after class, of Belshazzar dressed up in an interesting costume. And we're going to see that costume and clothing is going to have a major impact on this story. But he's going to get dressed up, and that night he's killed, you see him dressed up in a costume, and we'll discuss that costume a little bit later, what he dresses up as. Okay? And why he does. Okay, so now beginning of Megillat Esther. Megillat Esther. By the way, why is it called Megillat Esther? Why isn't it called Megillat Mordechai? Megillat Paras? What do you think? Yeah.
Okay, so I have two possible reasons, just ideas. One is because like she was the one who like married Achasheverosh, so like she was the one who like was able to reach like change that like happened.
She was the one who ended up, we're going to see, married Achasheverosh, yeah?
But also maybe because maybe Achasheverosh wanted her to have the glory because he was like, she's my wife.
That's a good point, actually. That's a good point. Achasheverosh is still alive. I mean, according to most opinions, Achasheverosh and Esther stayed married after the story. Yeah. So he wanted to have that. That could be. But I think the real answer, I'm not sure of the answer. I mean, I've heard a bunch of them. But I think, because she's the one who put her life on the line. We're going to see that she's the one who's going to put her life on the line. And the story of Purim is not mentioned in the Torah, meaning the 5 books of Moses. It can't have been because it happened many years later. But the Torah in Parshas Vayelech tells us that if you want to know where Esther is mentioned in the Torah, Esther, Mitorah Minayin, Esther. The question of the Gemara is, where is Esther mentioned in the Gemara, in the Torah? And it says, Anochi Astir Panai. I, says God, through Moshe Rabbeinu, at the end of the Torah, in Sefer Devarim, there's going to be a time where I Astir. What's Astir? What's a nistar? Hidden. So when the Torah repeats a word, which it does a number of times, what does it mean? It means that there's some double emphasis. This is a common tool in the narrative of the Torah. For example, how did you say red in Hebrew? Adom. So the Torah used the word Adom, and then it says something is a dum-dum. What's a dum-dum? Very red. Yarok is green. Yarak is very green. Avraham. Moshe. When it calls out a name twice, it means very much. This is a prophecy that was given to Moshe Rabbeinu in the Torah. You find this in the Bible, where Moshe Rabbeinu is being told to tell the Jewish people there's going to be a time when I really, really hide my face. God hides his face. God hides his, capital H, face. What do you mean God hides his face? What does it even mean?
He's not mentioned in the Megillah.
Right, so on the surface, his name, this is the only book of scriptures where God's name is not mentioned.
Isn't it mentioned once?
Nope, not mentioned once. There are other code words in Megillah. It says Hamelech, we're going to see, which is why the Megillah usually has Hamelech at the top of every column, which refers to Achasheverosh, and it's not mentioned. You're thinking of Moshe Rabbeinu's name mentioned once in Haggadah, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name is not mentioned once. The only book of scriptures, because God hides. What does that mean? God's name is not mentioned. That means we're not going to see God actively evident in this story. He is hidden. He's below the surface. So when the Gemara asks, where is Esther mentioned in the Torah? By the way, why the Torah wants or needs to find Esther in the Torah, we're going to see. Who cares? So she's not there. She wasn't alive yet. But it's important. Because Esther is going to represent a type of godly relationship with the world. I'll say that again. Esther and the Purim story is going to represent one of the ways that God interacts with the world, which is through nistar, through hiddenness. You're going to have to pierce below the surface. You're going to have to go behind the costume. We're going to see a number of mentions of clothing. Clothing is going to be a big theme that covers the story. You have to go below the surface in order to see Hashem operating. There's no open miracles. This is not Pesach. It's not Hanukkah. It's Purim. Anoch Esther. You're going to have to work hard to see me. I'm hidden. As represented by the heroine of our story, whose name was Esther, which means hidden. And also, we're going to see, it's also a Persian name, Ishtar, which some say means a star. Ishtar, star. Some say means Venus or the moon, different opinions. But we're going to see one of the ways that Esther succeeds in her mission is that nobody knows where she's from. She's hidden. Her origins are hidden. And Mordechai, we're going to see, is very, very careful to make sure that nobody knows her background.
Why is that important? For when she
Very important. Very important. Firstly, you can't know she's Jewish because she could get killed.
Oh, that's what it's tied.
That's one. But most importantly, she's going to have to receive support from everyone. Everyone is going to have to love her. And part of the intrigue between her and Achasheverosh is that he is dying to know where she's from. And it's going to be a big thing. She cannot tell him. So that's going to keep him connected to her. And everyone is going to turn to her, look at her, and say, she's one of ours. She's from us. The Medians, the Babylonians, all the other nations, of which there were plenty, are going to look and be like, she's one of ours.
He doesn't think it's weird that he doesn't know where she's from.
No. We're going to see. He's going to talk about it. He's actually going to do something very interesting to try to entice that information out of her. He's going to try very, very hard.
Why would everyone else do that? Why would everyone say,
because we're going to see she was an extremely beautiful and charismatic individual, and her mission succeeds on the fact that she received world support. She's going to become the queen of 127 provinces. Okay? She's going to have to, and she doesn't come from rural land, no one knows where she's from, no one knows she's Jewish. She's going to have everyone look and be like, she's one of ours. Very important. Yeah.
I have two quick questions.
Okay.
One, isn't Purim mentioned when before exiles are mentioned?
Purim is not mentioned. The Jews will be in exile, it is mentioned.
Therefore,
Not in the Torah.
yeah, but-
The exiles are not mentioned explicitly in the 5 books of Moses. No.
Okay, and then did Esther and Mordecai know the type of book they were writing when they were writing it?
Yes, absolutely. They fought to have it published and accepted as a holiday. That was not an easy thing. Creating a Jewish holiday is a big deal, but we're going to get to the end. We're going to see what they went through. Many people pushed back against them. Okay, let's begin. Now, with all that download information, let's start the Megillah. And we're going to, now, from everything I've told you so far in the introduction, everything else is going to make a lot more sense. Vayehi b'mei Achasheverosh. Let's start with that word. What does the word Vayehi mean? Vayehi. Good start.
There is.
Which one is it? There was or there is?
There was.
It happened.
First of all, what's this doing over here?
And
And. When do you usually put and at the beginning of a word or a sentence?
When we're continuing.
When you're continuing something else. So this story opens with there's a continuation of something. What had just happened before this? The Jews were exiled. The Jews were exiled. This is a continuation of that. It's not just some random story, it has nothing to do with that. Meaning, that was bad, and this is bad. And when the word Vayhi comes as the Gemara, in most cases, it means something bad's about to happen. Something bad is about to happen. That's a code word. These are all code words. So something bad, Va-Yehi. And it's connected to what happened before Yehi, it's going to happen. And right away we meet our nemesis, Achasheverosh. Achasheverosh is going to be our... Now, what is that word, Achasheverosh? What does it mean? So, there's different opinions. One opinion is, there's 2 words, Ach and Rosh. Ach, what's Ach? Brother. What's Rosh? Head. Ach, Rosh. He was the brother of another head. He was just another Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar. Just another one of the guys causing us trouble. Says the Ma'am Loez. Another one. What's Ach? Ugh. What's Ugh? What's Ugh? Ugh. What's Rosh? A head. He gave us a headache. The Gemara says this. He gave us a headache. He kept changing his decrees. I'm going to kill them. I'm not going to kill them. I'm going to hurt them. I'm not going to hurt them. He gave us a Rosh, Ach Barosh.
Yeah, but he saved us. Why is that a bad thing?
Make no mistake. Achashverosh had no love for the Jewish people.
But
He was
at the end of the
extremely
day-
pragmatic leader. At the end of the day, he allowed us to remain. He did allow us to remain, but he was not a good person. By the way, I know my Rebbe, when I was growing up, my teacher used to call it the Achashverosh fan club. Everyone loved him, right? When I tell you what he did, right, with your ears of 2020, hashtag me too, hashtag Vash, you're going to hate this guy. You're going to hate him. He was a very smart and conniving individual. But make no mistake, the Gemara says, and it gives an actual example, that he hates the Jews more than Haman.
So
Wild,
what's
right?
it-
The
so
Gemara
what's-
says this. I'm going to have to prove it to you, and it gives a very interesting metaphor about a man with a field. We'll get to it a little bit later, but I want to build him up first of all. Let's meet who this individual is. And by the way, if you want to just picture him in your mind, he's an extremely powerful, conniving, paranoid. You know there's dictators in Iraq? Paranoid dictator with chronic low self-esteem. And we'll see why. It was justly deserved. Justly deserved. Yeah.
His name wasn't Hebrew though.
No, but so what are names? So names are going to help us a lot. We're going to see Mordechai means something. Achashverosh is a name. right? Which we see Hebrew roots in. They're going to reveal something about him. We spoke, right? We said the word for soul is the neshama. We said shame is middle letters. It reveals something. Everyone's name reveals something. So Esther's going to reveal something. Haman, his name's going to be in the Torah. If you know the answer to this one, I'll be very impressed. Where's Haman in the Torah? In the Fabric of Moses, the word Haman appears. Not man, Haman.
No, but like the
Haman.
Are you talking about specifically his name or like
His, not of his name, he's not alive yet. But his name, the word Haman, appears in reference to something else.
Amalek?
No, Agagi is later on, not the Torah. He is Amalek. We're going to see his root or Amalek. But the word Haman appears somewhere.
Noah's son.
Nope. Shem, Yacham, and Yafet, 3 different people.
Give us a hint.
Give us a hint, yeah. Oh, is that
Is that the hint?
It's in the 5 books of Moses. The Gemara asks,
Oh.
Haman Torah Menayim. Where is Haman in the Torah? It can't be him. He's not alive yet. But his name appears. Oh, when you hear it, you'll be like, oh, that makes so much sense. Oh my God.
Sarah.
Nope.
I saw.
Gonna go back. Early.
How early?
Very.
Oh, gracious.
Where gracious?
In creation.
In creation, where?
Oh,
What? There's a...
oak?
No. Earlier. Creation. There's a tree.
It's
And he's told to Hamin ha'etz hazeh. From this tree. Hamin Haman. When the Yetz Hara was created, Haman, says the Gemara, Hamin Hazeh was found over there. The Nachash, Haman, that's going to be the root of Amalek. When we talk about Amalek, which is going to have a big role in this story, a big role, we're going to see it's going to come from the first decision of good and bad. He's going to represent all that is evil in this world. All that is evil in this world. Okay, we're going to get to Amalek, who they are, what their problem is with the Jewish people. We're going to get to all this. But we have to meet Achasheverosh. He's not Amalek. Vayhi me Achasheverosh. Who Achasheverosh? This is Achasheverosh, Hamolech, who ruled. Remember, everything on the board must be written down, understood, translated in your notes. You'll thank me, or you'll hate me. I don't know which one. It's one or the other. Achasheverosh ruled. So we're joining Achasheverosh not at the beginning of his battle. Belshazzar's gone. Nebuchadnezzar's gone. We already have established his kingdom, and he is in control of the world from Hodu. From Hodu. What's Hodu?
India.
To Kush. Hodu is probably India. Kush is usually accepted as Ethiopia. So there is a famous machloket in the Gemara, Rav and Shmuel. 2 famous Amoraim. Rav and Shmuel. Rav versus Shmuel.
That's where he was.
And the machloket between Rav and Shmuel is the following. When they say he ruled from Hodu ad Kush, let's pretend this is the globe, this is the world, yeah? Let's pretend that this is Hodu and this is Kush. So one opinion, and we don't know which one says which. I don't know why. One opinion is that Hodu ad Kush is he ruled from here to here. Okay? That means the land that he was in control of from his military conquests and battles was from Hodu ad Kush. The other opinion is no. It was from here to here. He had an incredibly large empire with pieces of land that were all over the entire world that came to 127 provinces. Now that is an interesting number because somewhere in the Torah, somewhere in the Bible, the 5 books of Moses, once say you don't ask the question yet, somewhere in the Torah, that number appears, and when you have similar names, they are comparable, but you have similar numbers, they're compared as well. Does anyone know where the number 127 appears in the Torah? Excellent. Well done. Sarah Imenu lived, Sarah, Abraham's wife, lived for 127 years.
Where does
127. Actually, it says she lived for 7, 20, and 1.
I know, but where did you get the
Achasheverosh, we're going to see, ruled over 127 provinces. The Megillah goes out of its way to tell us that number. Machbadli, 127, 250, why do I care? He was in control of a lot of area. That's important. Because every Jew is going to be under his domain. When it says that he was going to destroy, through Haman, the Jewish people, he doesn't mean a small group here and there. It's not the Nazis and the Sfardis are going to get away somewhere. Every single Jew in the entire world was up for annihilation. That's very important. Man, woman, and child. It's not like some crazy dictator in the middle of Africa, right? Or some Meshugana in Europe who's just going to get the Jews over there. The entire Jewish people of the entire world. 127, 127. What does this number represent? So the Gemara tells us a fascinating story about Rabbi Akiva. And I love this story because it makes me feel good. And I'll tell you why. Rabbi Akiva was teaching a class, the Gemara says. And some of his students started to fall asleep. If they fell asleep in Rabbi Akiva's class, I don't mind if they fall asleep in my class, right? And they fell asleep. And he banged the table and he said, in what merit did Esther Hamalka, did Esther the queen, have to rule over 127 provinces? That's the question Rabbi Akiva asked. And his students woke up. They're like, that's a strange question. What do you mean, in what merit did Esther have that she ruled over 127 provinces? He goes, I'll tell you why. Because her great-great-great-great-great-grandmother was Sarah Imenu. And she lived 127 years. Her 127 years correlated to her great-great-great-granddaughter Esther ruling 127 provinces. What is that about? Say the commentary is something fascinating. Sfas Emes says this and others. Sarah was the queen of time. There wasn't a moment that she wasted. Sarah Imenu, Sarah is the queen of time. That's why her life in the Torah is divided 7 years, 20 years, 100 years. She had full control over time. Esther was the queen of makom, of place. Esther's going to be the queen of place, of makom, zman and makom. Because when you live in this world, you live in two things: time and space. And if you treat every day like it's a town, every hour like it's a village, every moment, you give as much importance to time as you do to space, the implications have generational impact. We connect time and space together. There are holy times and there are holy spaces. And we learn this from Sarah and Esther. Treating time with the same reverence as you treat space. So we're all trying to acquire land and things and objects. So Esther was the queen of space in the merit of her great-great-grandmother, who was the queen of using every moment through time. Okay?
Wait, what? Sorry. What happens if you treat time?
Time and space for us are both holy. Sarah controlled time. Every moment of her life was used for the good. And in that merit, Esther, her great-great-great-granddaughter, was given control over space. Meaning if you use your time well, that was the lesson Rabbi Akiva was teaching his students. You're falling asleep in my class, right? You're wasting your time. He was giving them a nudge, but using this as a way to reveal that truth to them.
Stop pushing it.
Yeah. That's from Rabbi Akiva for you. Mahodu ad Kush, Sheva ve'esrim umea medina. Next verse. We haven't done one verse. Vayem mahem. In those days, I just want to get through this. We'll take questions soon. Kishevet hamelach Achasheverosh al kisei malchuto. It was in those days that Achasheverosh was sitting on his throne. Where else does a king sit, if not his throne? By the way, this was not any throne, by the way. This was not any throne. This was an epic, large throne that was taken, and lots of parts of it from Solomon's temple, from Belshazzar, and relocated into Shushan. And actually, the throne came first, and he built his empire around that throne, physically and metaphorically. Because remember, he's moving his power base from Bavel to Paras. The center of all the action is going to be centered around Paras, Shushan Habira, his throne. It's all coming down to that one power base. Why does it tell us, though, he's sitting on his throne? Why is that important to us? And look at the next verse. We're even told the year. Bishnat Shalosh Lamalko. In the 3rd year of his reign. So the opening of the Megillah is the 3rd year of Achashverosh's reign of power. The 3rd year of his power. Why is that important? Why do I need to know it's the 3rd year of his reign? What had happened?
Something would happen.
Something happened that like, oh, the 3rd year, he's getting excited. Now, he's settled on his throne. Now, he's taking power. He's been in power for 3 years. What had happened? Yeah.
There was battle beforehand that he had to actually take over the land.
But he's been in control for 3 years. The battle had happened a few years earlier. Why now?
Do you think it was the end of the 70 years?
Yeah. Achashverosh had a calculation. And one calculation was that the end of the 70 years had happened. Remember Belshazzar got dressed up as the Kohen Gadol and made a party to celebrate what he thought was the end of the 70 years? Achashverosh, says the Gemara, gets dressed up and makes a big party. And when I say big, we're going to see it is epic. Epic party, which is going to be fully attended. And now he feels secure. He feels secure, and he turns around to the Jewish people and he says, the end of the 70 years has come. Obviously, you're not going back. I am your new Messiah. I am your new leader. And he dresses up as the Kohen Gadol. He's going to put on the garments. How many garments did the Kohen Gadol wear? 8. Kohen Hediot had 4. Kohen Gadol had 8. And he's going to get dressed up. And we'll see various items of clothing are going to be hinted at in the party to show what he was wearing. And we're going to see that clothing is a theme. You have to remind me. We're going to see clothing, or lack thereof, is going to be a theme that comes up again and again and again in the Megillah. We can write an entire book just on clothing being mentioned in the Megillah, and we're going to see a reason why. This is the first one. Achashverosh is going to get dressed up as the Kohen Gadol and says, "You're not going back, Jews! 70 years are over. I am your new Kohen Gadol. You're here." And he's being very, very nice to them. Why is he being nice? Some dictators take control, they start to kill all their enemies. He's not doing that. Later on he does that. Why? Because he's still building his power base within his kingdom. Keep your enemies close, keep your friends even closer. Right? Sorry. Keep your friends close. Sorry. Keep your friends close, keep your enemies even closer. Right. So the Jews are his enemies. Thank you. Keeps his friends close, but he wants the enemies really close. And we're going to see the way he even throws the party and who he invites to the party and how he invites them and where he parties with them and how long he parties with them is all going to be the enemies that he keeps very, very close. Yes. Sorry. Okay.
Wait, what's the 8 that he was wearing?
8 items of clothing. The Kohen Gadol used to wear 8 items of clothing. A regular Kohen wore 4. Kohen Gadol ate, he wore all eight items of clothing, and he dressed up. He had the mitznefet and the sit, right, and the top, and he had the whole thing. And by the way, so this was a point. He's saying to them, I'm your new leader, love me, come to my party. All you Jews are invited to this party. And let's see exactly what he does. Bishnat Shalosh L'Malka, some mishta. He made a big party. L'chol sarav avadav. Now look at the order. Everything is important over here. Everything's very important. He made a big party for all of his sarav avadav, chayil paras umadai, all of his servants, all of his people. And then it says, paras umadai, and then he starts to invite the people from out of town, haparatimim v'sarim medina slafanav, and all of the outside. So what he's doing is, exactly as we said, he throws this party. Usually when you throw a party, who do you invite? All these dignitaries. He doesn't do that. They're far away. They're less of a threat. He starts by inviting L'chol sarav adav, his servants, and the people in his kingdom. Keep your enemies really close, because at any moment, they can kill you and take over. How do you know that? Because that's exactly what he did. Dictators are most afraid of the people who are in their palace, in their kingdom, right? So he's ingratiating himself to them. So he throws this big party before all the fancy people come from abroad, before the United Nations turns up, right? Before all the heads of state turn up. He has his posse, and he keeps them happy, and he invites them first to this party.
Yeah, but it's not like they had any power.
What?
It's not like they had power.
They did have power.
Who?
They have power to keep him in power. A leader is only leader when he has subjects to rule over. Baharos, so why does he do it? Look at verse Dalet. Sorry, just going to rush a little bit. Baharos es osher kavod malchuto. He wants to show his tremendous wealth and power. That yakar tiferet gedulato. To show his tiferet. What is tiferet, my dear friends? So tiferet are words that are used, kavod and tiferet are used in the Gemara to describe splendor and the big day kahuna. The big day kahuna. So the word tiferet is one of those code words to tell us that he's now dressing up as the Kohen Gadol. And not only that, he's going to decorate his palace and his party with things that he stole from Nebuchadnezzar, who stole it from the temple. Which, by the way, is going to make the party even worse for the Jews that all turn up. Because they're partying and drinking from goblets and enjoying the chairs and the gold and the silver and the linen and the walls that were decorating the temple. All right, now think about it. Now you understand why one opinion in the Gemara that this whole threat of annihilation came because they enjoyed the party of Achasheverosh. What's the big deal? Went to a party. We Jews, we like to party sometimes. Problem, you're enjoying the kalim, the vessels of the Beit HaMikdash, as a bizayon. What a busha. What a shame. Oh, 1,000% they knew. 1,000%. But they felt placate. One Jew doesn't go. And who's that? Mordechai. Mordechai's not going to go. Every one of the other leaders at the time said, we've got to go, we've got to party, we've got to be involved in this event. Yeah.
What does big day
Clothing of the kahuna. The 8 clothing of the kahuna. The Kohen Gadol. Yeah.
So when you say everyone went, are you only talking about the men, or you're saying the women too?
Women
Is
too,
Esther-
I believe.
Esther went?
That's an interesting question.
Because that would be 2 people, not
That's a very, very interesting question. Let me think about that one. I'm not sure the answer to that one.
one. Yeah.
I'm not sure. Maybe it was, but there was a women's party, which we'll talk about soon. Okay, so there we are. There's a big party. It's happening, and everyone's invited. Okay?
But wouldn't it be bad if they didn't go?
That was the rationale.
So
We've got
why
to
is that
go.
a bad thing? So it's not their fault.
You're right. And actually, that's the limud zchut that
Huh?
Shum Bayachai. Shum Bayachai, thank you. Baruch Hashem came to my head. Was asked this and said, why were the Jews threatened with annihilation in the days of Esther? And he said, because they went to the party. Like, come on. They didn't really want to enjoy it. They just went to save themselves. It was a fake out. You know, Hashem says, no problem. I'll fake them out as well. I'll pretend to kill them.
That's so mean.
Mida keneged mida. It's a fake out. It's a fake out
To who?
to the entire Jewish people.
That's so. But they thought they were doing the right thing.
They made a mistake. There's many times in life I think I'm
it's
doing the right
not
thing,
my
I'm making a
fault.
mistake.
It's not their fault.
They went, they enjoyed. That's what the students of Shum Bayachai were implicating. And that's one opinion. There's another opinion, they bowed down to the idol of Nebuchadnezzar many years before, another opinion. But going to the Suda was seen as a big mistake. And some say not going was the problem, but they enjoyed it. Going is one thing. You got to show our face. But you know what? They enjoyed it. There was kosher food. There was kosher wine. We're going to see. It's going to mention, actually, the Megillah itself tells it was kosher, according to most opinions. Not everyone agrees with that. And they enjoyed it, had a good time. Aha. So it wasn't just about political expedition. They were trying to get in there and trying to get in with him. Actually, the whole attending was to have a good time, which they did. They enjoyed themselves a little bit too much. And en honest, no one was forced to drink at this party. Let's have a look inside. Look at verse 6. Chur, karpas, techelet. Sound familiar? Techelet? This is all stuff in the Beit HaMikdash. They're there, eating, drinking, having a good time. Sitting there, looking at the wonderful things, the Beit HaMikdash. What a terrible statement. Argaman al glili kesef. There's large pieces of silver, amudei sheish, and marble. Mitov zav, the kesef, aritzba b'ad v'sheish, dav choret. Beautiful things all around them. All kalim, mikalim shonim. Old goblets. They say that each goblet was as old. Each wine they drank was as old as the person drinking it, and each goblet was that he drunk from it. Silver, gold, he threw it away. Right? And this party took 180 days. It's a 6-month party. 6-month party. That's important. Because that's going to be another machloket of Rav and Shmuel. I'll explain to you the machloket. The party lasts for 180 days. That's how long the party goes for. But there's another party. What's the other party? There's a party that lasts for Sheva Yamim, we said, right? For 7 days.
So there were two parties?
2 parties. 7 days and 180.
So the first one was 180.
Yeah. And then 7 days. There's a machloket.
They were happening at the same time.
One after the other. Who is the 7 for? Who is the 180 for? So the 7 was for his close friends. This was the people in his town, people who were close to him. The other party is the 180 days, 6-month party, and that's for everyone who's coming from far and wide. People coming from all over his kin, 127 provinces. They're turning up as well. Rabbi Shmuel. Some say he was a very smart person. First of all, he invites the people who are close to him to butter them up a little bit, and then everyone else. And some say, no, he made a big mistake. First of all, you want to make all the other people happy, right? And then he should have had the private after party. Okay? So there's a dispute exactly how smart he was for doing this smaller party.
Wait, the smaller one was 7 days. Yeah?
So it just says it was 80, wasn't it?
It's 180 is first.
No, you just.
180.
Sorry, 180 is first. Sorry, 180 is first, and then 7 days.
And which one was bigger?
So the price was that.
First rule, it was 180 days. Yeah, 180 days, and then 7 days.
And the
So some say he made a.
Wait, but who was invited to the
Wait, it's a machloket for which was bigger or?
No, it was a machloket between Rav and Shmuel. 1 second. Wait for it. It's coming.
Wait,
it's
but
a-
which one had more people?
180.
Okay.
And everyone else wanted.
It was 6 months and then 1 week. He wanted to have everyone and then the 1 week party right afterwards. Right? So some say he made a mistake.
And there's no significance for 180 days?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
So you're saying he's very smart, but he made a mistake in the order.
But the Vilna Gaon says actually it took him that long to go through all of his wealth, 180 days. To go through all of the wealth that he had and to display all that he had. Okay, we shall stop over there. Next class, we're going to meet Vashti and see what she has to do with all of this.
1 second.
Okay, Jen.